hold on to your dream. Hold on to your dream. Don't give up on your lofty dream. Don't fit into any straight mold. You're made to be.
The turning point in the process of growing up is when you discover the core strength within you survives all hurts. The turning point in the process of growing up is when you discover the core strength within you survives all hurts. Max Lerner. That is our thought for food and food for thought for this edition of Open Forum with Citizen MKO, your talk show of consequence for state and nation building. Open Forum is about people, issues, ideas, and solutions. And wherever this flag is flown, we take care of our own. On today's edition, we are keeping to our promise of bringing in a man that is a gift to not just Akwa Ibom State, but to humanity. And he has broken the jinx in Open Forum. We've never had a guest score a hat trick. He's been on the program for 3 times, and I'm just glad. You get to meet him later. But first of all, we want to just read out our normal programs so that you know what we're going to do today. And I want you to know that Open Forum, as long as it has to do with issues, there is no other better point of call than the Ideas Bank for good leadership. And we are also the voice to the voiceless. So naturally, we normally have policy analysis and advocacy, which we are by all means going to make sure we deal with it today so that our guests will do justice to it. And we are still keeping tab with stock taking and agenda setting for Akwa Ibom without oil. This is part 12. And today, the front burner issue is how to address the free-tard oil, gas, solid minerals, aquatic, tourism resources, and human capital that are available in Akwa Ibom State for the economic transformation of our dear state. That is the issue on the front burner. And on the state of the state and state of the country, we are going to do the kind of things that examiners do. You will be given 50 questions, and you are given 60 minutes to answer. And that is how to rate anybody that has something to offer to be certified as being fit to meet up with being certified at whatever level. We want to say as much as we can, because we know who we have in the studio. We will attempt all questions. So we're going to look at the alleged 700 billion naira loot, which an NGO or a civil society group, NACAT, has accused the immediate past governor of Akwa Ibom State, Mr. Udom Emmanuel. And we are just going to give you update on NACAT's petition to EFCC against Mr. Udom Emmanuel, and then the dimension it has taken, and that's the dangers of ethnic coloration to the fight against corruption by commentators. And we're also going to look very briefly also on that same breath at the petition against Obong Emem Ekwerikwe, who's the minister for petroleum gas, and the reactions, including from His Excellency Governor Moino, including the immediate past governor, Mr. Udom Emmanuel, and even Obong Emem Ekwerikwe. Very rich conversation. We also look at that there's a revelation the National Assembly is investigating Akwa Ibom State the past 3 years having to do with derivation funds, 18% derivation funds, and how those monies were expended in specific areas having to do with the core communities. That's core oil and gas producing communities. And then, a very interesting one, the Anambra State Homeland Security Law 2025. There is provisions that are of very, very, very interesting provisions. We're going to look at it very briefly. And then, because we are blessed with a lawyer in the house, a very seasoned one for that matter, the former Attorney General, we can be sure that we're going to get an expert position. And then the preliminary report of the Akwa Ibom State Government Personnel Audit. Finally, on state of the state will be local government autonomy, the imperative for the amendment of local government laws to accommodate new realities. Like I told us, open forum, we're about people, issues, ideas, and solutions. And this is going to be like a jam session. The question, you have a timing. If we cannot meet up the timing, we don't have ourselves to blame. We just say we've done our best because we believe that 1 hour on radio for us is the most productive you can ever spend. And then on humanitarian interventions, which we are going to take immediately, there's a young man who is visually impaired, and he has benefited from the goodness, the goodwill of His Excellency, who gave 100 million naira for physically challenged persons who are in tertiary institutions. He has benefited, and then we have him here, and for about maybe 10 minutes or thereabout, we're going to hear from him and what his needs are. But before we do that, we must just do a little recap. I won't spend much time on it. Last week, we had a seasoned banker who happens to be the chairman or the president of the Institute of Bankers, Akwa Ibom State chapter, and we spoke on how to make entrepreneurship development or empowerment, a business grant that His Excellency has been giving, even what the country has been doing, trying to alleviate poverty, how to make it sustainable. And what we arrive at is that the selection process must not be political. And it would never be sustainable, no matter how many billions His Excellency puts into empowering people. It would never be sustainable until we have the beneficiaries have a program, something they show that they can do or they have been doing, and then the process of disposing the money is not by hand. The bank should be brought in with Akwa Savings or Ibom Fadama Bank, or at the federal level, like we have recommended the IBB model, People's Bank of Nigeria or Citizens Bank. Let people go and assess whatever funding and let the criteria not be political. Otherwise, we are just throwing money around, and then whatever amount has ever given should be enough to do business for that level of person. You will not give a graduate 50,000 naira and expect him to do the business you'll be able to follow up, except he has already been in business. But that 50,000 or even less can change the life of another person permanently. We must be able to structure this and that effectively. We also commended our House of Reps, Representative Uyo Federal Constituency, Magaset, and the senator from one of the southeastern states who rose up to speak when the IGP and the committee analyzing the budget for the police force gave them a wrong budget breakdown while the IGP was reading another thing. They raised the alarm, and we saw what played out. The video is there, and that is how it should be. Never allow anybody anywhere to intimidate you if you are representing the people. Never. Even when you are representing yourself, don't let anybody use office, size, or crown, or whatsoever, not to allow you to air your views. So that was what we did, and by the grace of God, one thing leads to another. Today is going to be much higher and deeper. That's what Open Forum is all about. Having said that, I want to introduce our guests, and then we'll go straight to the first matter, which has to do with the humanitarian intervention that we have today. First of all, it's my pleasure once again to welcome, please let the mic. Yeah. technical team, please let our brother there, let the mic be close to him so that he will be able to communicate well. Careful. Yes. The first is a man that ever since I met him, I feel so encouraged and inspired, and every moment I spend with him adds value to who I am and what I do for humanity. Some of the things he has said has become nuggets in my life. I've used that a number of times on air and even online. He said here that what you do not know, you worship. It was on this program about 3 weeks ago. And he once told me that anything done without love is sin. I will never forget it. He said in his office. Please help me welcome Barrister James Essien, former Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Akwa Ibom State, and that was under Obama Party 7, and he is the principal partner of James Essien & Co., a legal practitioner par excellence.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Your Excellency.
Thank you for the opportunity.
That's what I call you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Then the next person we have is a young man that has really touched me when I got in contact with him. He reached out to me and I said to myself, wow, this is something to write home about. He is Mr. Ekerebong Jackson Ekwere. He is from Padenin local government area. He is visually impaired, but that has not stopped him. He's a master's degree student in the Department of Agricultural Education, University of Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. Mr. Ekerebong Jackson Ekwere, you are welcome to Open Forum with Citizen NKO.
Oh, thank you very much, sir.
You may have to speak a little bit. I like your voice. Maybe louder.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm glad to be here. It's my pleasure, sir.
Thank you. I'm going to stay put with you.
Okay, sir.
You reached out to us and you told us about the challenge that you have, which has to do with your physical visual impairment, but that is not even a challenge to you. The challenge you have currently is that you are a beneficiary of the special intervention fund, educational fund that His Excellency Pastor Moino graciously approved for physically challenged persons in higher institutions. First of all, tell us about that. Are you a beneficiary, like you told me? Tell the world now about that.
Okay, as I earlier said, my name is Ekerebong Jackson Ekwere from Padenin local government area. I applied when I heard that His Excellency, the Governor of Akwa Ibom State, Governor Umo Basino, gave about 100 million for disabled students. I applied as every other person did, and by God's grace, my name was shortlisted. I went there for the screening, and I was granted about 300,000 naira.
That is awesome. Ekerebong is a beneficiary of the goodwill of His Excellency Pastor Moino to the tune of 300 million. 300,000 naira. And you are here, you need financial assistance. Why do you need additional financial assistance in the program that you are doing?
Thank you very much, sir. I need financial assistance to be able to complete my studies because at some point I thought little money could do. I'll go for master's program. I did not know that it's quite demanding. So I have paid part of my fees. It still lives over with my project. I'm done with my project as we speak. The coursework, I'm done with the coursework. The topic of my project has to do with the prevalent situation in the country, palm oil production.
Okay, let's leave the details.
Okay.
How much do you need to be able to complete your master's program?
Okay, apparently I need about 600,000 naira right now to complete my studies.
Now, because of time factor, we'll be able to give the breakdown. He has actually written to us. He has given the entire breakdown to the last cover of what he needs. And then he has an additional need here, which is something that is worthy of note. You are visually impaired. When did your visual impairment set in?
Okay, I was actually okay in my secondary school days. It was when I started with my first degree in the University of Uyo. I actually did agricultural engineering. That was my first degree. But based on doctor's recommendation, I could not be able to cope with the technical department. So I had to switch
So what?
to something administrative, which is agricultural education.
Okay.
So I'm still undergoing. I'm right now. My area of study is agricultural technology education.
Yes. Now,
So
how do you even cope? How do you even cope?
I was given a device. They call it low vision air, and I've been using them. Like the one I'm using right now is has faded, eventually has spoiled. So
Okay.
I'm trying to see how I can get another one. But the most recommended is called Bioptics.
Bioptic lens.
Yes, Bioptic lens. Which
Now,
is
in your letter here, you have the sum of 2,000 US
US dollar, and
dollars.
that is the list of all of other lenses that has to be the Bioptics. There are other lenses that could cost 5,000 US, but the one that the doctor recommended was 2,000 US dollars.
The list.
Yes,
Now,
that's the list.
You were at our Open Forum Center where we talked, and I asked you this. Have you tested the Bioptic lens? Were you able to see anything at all?
Yes, I was able to. I was glad when I used the lens.
Awesome. Where was this?
That was at Mekiel Eye Center at Lagos.
Oh, you went to Lagos for
Yes,
it.
Oshodi, yes.
Okay, let's do this. Please, for those listening to us, Open Forum is about people, issues, ideas, and solutions, and we are the voice to the voiceless. We have actually, by the grace of God, been able to take care of some cases. We've lost some because of lack of responsiveness of some of those who should do the needful, but we are never discouraged. For a Kerebon to be a master's degree student, he cannot see, and then he has opportunity of being able to see using bioptic lens, and he needs just 600,000 to finish his master's program. That is not too much for Akwa Ibom people. It's not too much for the government. We want to say here, since we have a lot to talk about, as usual, we are going to send out appeals. We are sending out appeals on air right now, and we want to also send out appeal in letters like we normally do. He's from Kwadenin, so you, our big man from Kwadenin, expect Open Forum. We're going to send a letter to you, and we'll add his number. We try to avoid unscrupulous persons hacking in and doing whatever mess using people's accounts. So we are very strict about financial matters, and so we will give out his phone number. Whatever financial thing that can be done, maybe through directly to him. But if we are to administer it, we normally give our account number, which we use to be able to coordinate things. His phone number is 0704 6601 181. I take that again. Ekerebon Jackson Ekwere 0704 660 1181. We are going to send out letters, and this one I cannot avoid. I will be able to also reach out to His Excellency, who is so awesome when it comes to showing compassion. And that's the much we can take. We have actually shoot the time we needed to give to you, but as the final word for now, what do you have to say? Make the appeal with your own lips.
I'll be
Very
glad.
fast.
I'll be glad if my request is met.
Great.
God bless you all as you grant my heart.
Thank you so very much. Ekerebon will be very glad, and we're so happy to have him see once he's able to have that bioptic lens. Now to our guest analyst par excellence, we cannot but thank him for accepting to be on Open Forum with Citizen KO for the third time. I know the kind of sacrifice he has had to make to be able to be here with us. Your Excellency, as I called you, sir, you've heard Ekerebon Jackson Ekwere, the masters without sight, and being able to come this far in life. What would be your word concerning this kind of case?
Well, the very first that I learned in the Christian faith is that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you.
Absolutely.
And I do believe it. And I really thank God for the enablement He has given him. The Lord our God will restore his sight.
Amen.
So that he will fulfill his destiny in God.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Best way to live it. You will hear from us because we are going to do our best to see that Ekerebom gets the necessary assistance as much as we can. Now to our big talk. We are going to be very, very sharp because we are attempting all questions as much as we can, and then we'll score ourselves at the end of the day. Let's start from Anambra State, let's start from home. Local government autonomy. The imperative for the amendment of local government laws to accommodate new realities. You are a legal practitioner of repute, and the local government autonomy, what the Supreme Court said, is not what is there in the Constitution. And even this morning, I guess it was on this station, we were talking about local government system, and then the joint account stuff. The National Assembly has not amended it, and as we speak, the FAC or Central Bank or whosoever have directed, Ministry of Finance have directed all the councils to open account with Central Bank. So which means they are going to get their funding directly. But in Akwa Ibom State, where we want us to stick to, there appears to be no move to do amendment to the existing local government laws. Whether Lagos State have harmonized here and there, Anambra State has even done a law. They even have their own joint account, special joint account. And some other states are doing something. Some states like Bauchi has scrapped Minister of Local Government because it seems as if they don't have any role to play any longer. As brief as you can, sir, what would be your recommendation to the Akwa Ibom State government and maybe Nigeria generally, where state governors are not doing anything to show that it's not going to be business as usual again?
Well, that is only to be expected. With the passage of time, I believe there will be conformity, there will be compliance. But one thing is sure, the motive, for the separation, for independent local governments must actually be looked at. Why do you need them autonomous when they are actually growing within the system? Because the local governments actually exist within the state.
That's right.
So what would that autonomy mean, really?
And it's just financial autonomy, not even administrative autonomy.
Because all the development you bring at the local government level might dovetail with that of the government. So how do you manage that? Look at roads, for example. Even grading of roads, which is the level they can actually do. Look at even the markets they are building, motor parks and things. The land is in the hands of the governor. It's actually a very interesting development, but I believe it could evolve. But I don't think the word autonomy is a proper word to use.
Your Excellency, I love that because I as a person, apart from as an organization, we have been against this very move because we believe that in a federation, there are only two tiers, state and federal. Local government should be under the state. The state should determine how they want to have their local government, but we don't have the kind of governors who can do what the kind of people like Obama did. They will have gone to court for proper interpretation if Nigeria is a federation or a unitary state or a federation with 2 or 3 tiers. Now, since none of them has been able to go to court, what would be your kind of capsule that you take this capsule, this palliative, until we see what to make out of the system that we have?
No, what we're talking about is much more important than palliatives because you're talking about the livelihood of people.
But it's late.
You're talking you're talking about their existence. So we are not talking palliatives. We must do things that are responsible, things that are serious, to ensure that that local community that consists of about 50% of our population are actually carried along. Let them understand what is going on. Let them be part of the resources God graciously gave us, even as a state. They cannot be excluded.
But as it is now, there's bound to be crisis. There's bound to be petitions because some governors cannot survive without local government funds. That's the truth.
I don't.
Now,
I don't.
what do we do? How do we manage
I
this?
would not quite agree with that. That you cannot survive without local government funds, because what it means is that you might not be thinking.
But that's what's happening.
No, you see, they can survive. It's just that they want excesses.
Exactly.
They can obviously survive because I mean, look at it. Even the local government funds, what are they applied to?
Yes.
To pay primary school teachers, to pay healthcare workers at that level. That is the essence of the joint account, to ensure that they are paid. Because a few local government chairmen are also funny. They might come back tomorrow, with hands on their head, that there is no money to pay our teachers.
That's true.
That is the level of control that they need from the state. That cannot come from the federal government. Imagine 774 local governments. It's quite difficult to manage. And if the motive is to gain a political advantage, then it will surely fail.
Absolutely. What's your final take on that? Your recommendation which government at all levels, be state or federal, or even the National Assembly, should be able to work on, sir?
Well, what I would recommend is that the system must be allowed to operate like a tree. You have roots like the federal government, you have a stem like the state government, and you have your branches as the local governments. There must be a flow. And that flow needs to be seamless.
Good.
You cannot exclude the state government in the growth of the local government. I don't understand.
Absolutely. It's obvious that even the federal government was not prepared to implement even the autonomy. And here we are. The law has not been implemented. The states are neither here nor there, having to do with how prepared they are. And some of them are even courageous enough to do their own local joint account. But in open forum, we have advocated for the establishment of what we call senatorial district development authorities, where the local government in their senatorial district and the state government would come together and see what development they can jointly come up with. Otherwise, we are going to find ourselves in a very embarrassing situations where people will be crying what we normally hear right from childhood, had I known. And having said that, we move to a very interesting one, which involves a state in the southeast that has enacted what is called Homeland Security Law, particularly Anambra State, Homeland Security Law 2025. And they have some very interesting clauses. We just want to take 2 or 3 of those clauses. Clause 18 has to do with offenses on use of supernatural powers. And it says, any person who under the practice of okete or ezewine or under any other guise administers any substance or charm on or for any other person for the purpose of commission of any offense or for the purpose of accumulation of wealth by supernatural means other than by any known lawful means of livelihood, or who publicly propagate the accumulation of such wealth other than by any known lawful means of livelihood, commits an offense and is liable on conviction to imprisonment for a term of 6 years with an option of fine of 20 million naira or both. Any person who performs any sacrifice or dumps on any road or thrown into any water body in the state any charms, substance or items of sacrifice in flagrance of the commission of any offense under subsection 1 of this section, commits an offense and is liable on conviction to imprisonment for a term of 6 years with an option of fine of 20 million naira or both. 3. Any person without any supernatural powers which he is found not to possess, or who obtains any reward for any person in furtherance thereof, commits an offense and is liable to conviction to imprisonment for a term of 6 years with an option of fine of 20 million naira. 4. For the purpose of ascertaining whether or not a person possesses the natural powers under subsection 3 of this section, any such person suspected of misleading the public under subsection 3 of this section shall at the state of investigation be subjected to proof that he possesses such powers. 5. An investigation made by the police in respect of any offense under this section shall be forwarded to the Attorney General of the state for review and advice before prosecution of any person suspected of having committed the offense. I won't read everything in subsection clause 19 and 20, but the sub-8 are offenses involving use of religious places, and 20 is offenses involving human part. You are a very brilliant legal mind. We have peculiar problem, not just in the southeast, but in Nigeria. Money rituals and other rituals. We see it not in the films any longer, but actual sacrifices that are made. And we see traditional, religious practitioners show that they have powers to make people rich. They have powers to make this and that. And Professor Charles Soludo is not an illiterate person. He's not a rural person. He's a professor, former CBN governor. He's the governor of Anambra State. And he has signed this very law. What is your position? Is this law implementable?
Well, implementable is another issue. The very first issue is whether that law does not violate the Constitution.
Okay. How?
All your fundamental human rights, freedom of association, freedom of religious worship, because religious worship does not mean Christianity or Islam. There are all forms of worship. There's Buddhism. There is Confucius, there is Christian Science, all sorts of things, that people worship all over the world, And at any rate, if you're talking about the existence of food offerings and all of that, that has a lot of roots in the African traditional worship.
Yes.
So how do we walk away from that? Because your grandfather might be the next culprit.
This is where we are. So we have a problem for this law to be implemented with what you said. We should be expecting legal fireworks.
Well, I've not read the totality of the law, but the relevant sections which we were looking at, quite interesting, that the police will investigate, force the man to show that he has the powers and all of that. I don't know. I don't think that is within the purview of the activities of the police in the exercise of supernatural powers. That's not what the police is invited to do.
Interestingly, maybe we should have this program, this very discussion, as a standalone discussion, because by grace of God, I have access to the law, and there's a provision there. Town union presidents are to send reports monthly on the security situation, crime committed, this and that, and you fail, you are deposed. And the security agencies that they have set up have power to arrest. So it's quite interesting, but we needed to bring up this most interesting aspect, which has to do with money rituals, which is very prevalent. And we've heard our legal mind say, how is it when you put it side by side with the Constitution and the freedom of worship and the fact that we don't have just Christians and Muslims? In fact, even Christians do rituals. Anambra State, here you are.
You're talking about the state of your mind, because you might be thinking in terms of rituals. The other man is thinking in terms of making money, because business is actually done at the occult level.
Really?
Yeah, particularly if you look at the stocks, places like India, No, they call the guru. It will tell you which stocks are going up and which ones are going down. So what are we talking about?
Here we are.
Men invoke the occult to do business, occultic powers. As a matter of fact, even in some meeting halls and all, if you look at the windows, it is Feng Shui architecture. They can literally look at the sun. Even a fisherman in Oron, he looks at the moon and tells you where there will be fish. Is that not correct?
Absolutely. This is it's deeper than you can just say, okay, it's a thing in the passing, but let's just leave it there. There's much more to do about that the Homeland Security Law, which is called Agune Chemba. Now, I don't know what that means. I couldn't get my Igbo friends to interpret, but we're going to look at that matter again. A first one we must do because we give information that is quite necessary to our people. This program is about people, issues, ideas, and solutions. We have talked about the preliminary report of the Akwa State government personnel audit. And for our information, the preliminary report was submitted by the chairman of that committee, Elder Effiong Essien, who is the head of service of Akwa Ibom State. And from what we heard, even before he did that submission and we got more facts, we had heard that there were 55,120 workers on the payroll, and that, I'm told, includes local government employees, state civil public officers, and then appointees of government. And we have said in open forum, those should be broken down. We need to know how many local workers are there in the local government system, how many are there at the state. Political appointees should stand alone. And then you'll never be able to discover ghost workers if, for any reason, the same people that man the payroll are the ones doing the audit. That is our position as open forum. But be that as it may, we understand that 45,000 have been verified, and 2,924 did not turn up at all, which are those that may be called ghosts. And we have said in open forum that there are no ghosts anywhere. The term ghost is the term used for the Nigerian factor of corruption in the civil service, because you don't find that in private sectors where we have ghost workers who are drawing salaries and getting promotions. Some of them retire and they continue as ghosts. So, and then we understand that 6,000 turn up, but failed. The verification failed. They actually turn up. So we are looking at about 8,924 who are to be verified, and the governor has said he is going to pay the minimum wage from November, effective from January. And we commend him, but we must say this. It wouldn't be the best to do a verification exercise where the ghosts, as they say, will survive, possibly because it was not done by an independent audit body. We have a lawyer, brilliant lawyer here. I cannot fail to just get his take, even if it's just in 30 seconds. He's been monitoring a personnel auditor. So far, the ghosts have not been, Ghostbusters have not really come out to say, these are the number of ghosts, this is how much they have been getting for this period, this is where they have been found, and we're going to recover the money, like Mr. President, as what Bola Ahmed Tinubu told the federal head of service, that those ghosts who have jackpot, they must recover the monies, and those that are involved, they have to be punished. We've not heard that in Akwa Ibom State.
Well, Akwa Ibom State has bbeen blessed. It could very well be that we don't have such incidents.
I'm sure they are. They are. I was privileged to meet with somebody who did an audit someday, when he was in service, he's no longer alive, and the kind of things he told me, I knew that, yeah, definitely they are ghosts. The ghosts include corruption that are entrenched, and they are managed by people.
Well, my attitude to it is that if there are ghost workers in your department, it is the permanent secretary that should be sacked.
That's right.
Because you are mismanaging our resources.
That's right.
You have a number you could manage within your system. So if we find up to 10, 20, 40 ghost workers in your ministry, we should send you away. You don't know what you're doing. You are causing us a lot of losses.
Not just going away. Money should be recovered.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because you are in charge. The buck stops on your table. We are not talking about ghost workers, people left for America and things. You give them the cover because you are not supervising. You are not supervising. I've been to some offices, even that which they give them as computers, you will see them cover it with a piece of cloth. And you wonder what they think it is.
They don't use it.
Yes, if at that level,
yes,
you don't have access to the internet and to computer in your ministry, no, you should go to the village.
Awesome position. By the time the final report is submitted, we assure you at Open Forum, we would continue our analysis and will tell you our position, because at the federal level, 200 billion was discovered to have been what they are making. In Kaduna State, they're making about 400 and something million monthly. 50,000 ghost workers at the federal level. And anybody that says there are no ghost workers in Akwa Ibom State is part of the people who are milking the system. But someday they will account, and that's the reality. We move to the next issue, which has to do with the revelation that the National Assembly is probing the utilization of derivation fund, 13% derivation fund for the past 3 years. And something brought up this topic. It has to do with the allegation that the petition, the petition against Mr. Udom Emmanuel, that he cannot account for, according to the petitioners, NACAT. NACAT is a network against corruption and trafficking, where Fejiro Oliver, his real name is Ogene Ruru something, and then the petition has made somebody who's working for the state government to put out this on the social media. And I never, despite my nosing around, trying to get information to do analysis, I never heard about this anywhere. And it's a letter dated 15 November 2024 from the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Senate and House of Representatives Joint Committee on Host Communities, National Assembly Abuja, addressed to His Excellency and attention the Chief of Staff. The header is Joint Committee Oversight on Derivation Funds accruing to Akwa Ibom State Government for the past 3 years. Time would not permit me to read the entire letter, but I want to jump to the page 2 of it. The team were invited to come with specific documents that will show, let me take this paragraph. The Joint Committee kindly requests the state to avail her with details of report of project funded with the 13% derivation and domiciled in host communities of your state. The information should include, but not limited to, the following: project title, location of project, project cost, stages of work done in the project or project, total cost of the project ascribed to each of the host communities to date, any other additional information. And this letter goes on, and it was signed by Senator Chief Benson Sunday Agadaga, MON, Chairman Senate Committee on Host Communities, Oil and Gas, and signed to by Right Honorable Domnamene R. Deco. He is the Chairman, House Committee on Host Communities, Oil and Gas. Your Excellency, this letter is made public because is targeted at the sitting governor. I don't know how they believe that they are Siamese strings. I don't know that. But because this is in public domain, and we are going to talk about oil and gas today, no matter how brief, what do you think is going on that the National Assembly is investigating just between 2021, 2022, 2023 derivation to Akwa Ibom State and having to do with how the money was used in host communities? Your thoughts, sir?
Well, that might just be a result of some petitions that have gone to the National Assembly, but that is not the root of that problem. You know, there is a parallel in Delta State. What Delta State did at that time was to establish the SOPADEC, you know, which was to take care of the host communities in the oil-producing areas. Akwa Ibom did not do that. So the issue is not actually about the governor.
That's right.
Is that there is the non-existence of a policy or an implementable structure. They put together the SOPADEC. In fact, I was friendly with the chairman of Delta SOPADEC. He even came here because they were looking for an opportunity to establish 4 refineries, you know, in that Delta belt. So, if an investigation is called for, it's because you have utilized those resources for the general development of the state without being specific as to projects in the oil developing and host communities as they were. That has been the problem. That's it's not private to Governor Minor. No, that would not be true.
Or a witch hunt.
Exactly.
It's
No.
not.
I don't believe anybody wants to witch hunt.
Now, here we are. Open Forum has severally, in fact, even on this program, even during one of our, not just one of our, twice on our press conference, we have been advocating for the establishment of the Akwa Ibom Oil and Gas Host Communities Development Commission, because it's likely it's only Akwa Ibom State in the Niger Delta that does not have a host community development commission. And you go to a place like Eastern Ubulu, you will not believe that anything good comes out from there. You go to Ibono, that's a place, a local government area with, I think, one primary school and one secondary school. It's like a child's play. No water to drink. So, those who are believing that anything that has to do with accountability is witch hunting, if you are in government, you are not supposed to be there, because your mental capacity is not fit. It does not fit where you are. The people that cannot bring ideas to leaders should be eased out, otherwise they will bring embarrassment. So on this very issue, this is not a colored printout. Maybe for online we are going to we'll display it. Don't bother about this month. We will display it, and we will maybe in our podcast have time to read everything, because we cannot be misleading those who lack information about what is going on in Akwa Ibom State or Nigeria. So I thank. I think this was even put out. I saw it when Emmanuel Nicholas put it up when he was trying to defend that Mr. Udeme Emmanuel never did any wrong and can never do any wrong, and that this is coming because Mr. Senate President is behind whatever, and that is our. I want to take that up a little bit before we move to the big one, even if it's for 5 minutes. Alleged 700 billion loot, and then the update. What are the updates? The update is that the petition, which was a media thing earlier, was actually submitted to the EFCC and ICPC by a network of action against against corruption and trafficking, and Akwa Ibom sons are involved. Michael Epo and Victor Sage Thompson are involved. And then some persons are saying that, why should a Delta man come and be talking about Akwa Ibom issue? We have said so on this program that they are running an NGO. Open Forum deals with issues in different states. And nobody should tell me in this world that what is Matthew Kofi Okono? Why are you talking about issue in Anambra State? Is it from Anambra State? That shows the level of mind and how some of these people have found their ways to where even decisions are taken, because you won't have anything to bring to the table. It's an NGO. They can talk about what is going on in America. So let people know that. And I don't have time today. I will have reeled out that this same man, Vejiro, petitioned Akpabio. This man petitioned Peter Obi. He has spoken against several other persons. In fact, he has even said 2 of his staff are media aides to His Excellency Pastor Moino. So we are not dealing with individual here. When we are dealing with institutions and they are not doing well, the worst that has happened is that they are trying to make this an ethnic thing. I want you to speak to it, sir, briefly. He's asking for accountability and ethnic war.
Well, to the glory of God, we had Governor Umoino as not only an elder, I think it was an elder. Or was he a deacon?
No, Pastor. Not Umoino.
I mean, Udeme Emmanuel.
Yeah, he was a deacon, but he dropped that.
It was a deacon, but eventually became a Christian. Well, whatever it is.
Yes.
You see, what is significant is that leadership in Christendom is actually must be understood from the scriptural position. And the Lord Jesus Christ taught it in 3 parables. The very first was the parable of the servant. So the leader needs to be a servant. A servant is one who serves. But beyond being a leader, a servant, the leader also must be a steward. He also gave the parable of the steward.
Yes.
And the essence of being a steward is that you must account. So nobody should shy away from accounting. If there is an invitation to account,
Yes.
it is to ensure that you don't bear the iniquity, the burden
That's right.
of frittering away the common patrimony of about 7 million people.
Over 7 million.
You need to account for it. Because I can tell you one thing for sure.
Yeah,
If you stole the money, the generation of your children will pay
absolutely.
if you do not pay.
There's no better way to leave it than to say that if you ever held any public office and wants to shy away from giving account, you were never fit in the first place to be there. And you have nothing to worry about if your hands are clean. If your people say, Karobo is there. And when we have had unscrupulous people from time, we hear something like, say when somebody has stolen and is caught in the act, and because somebody has to cover up somebody, they will say, meanwhile, this is a dead chicken, stolen chicken, big man's bag. That's just by the way. Final question. Callers, last week or 2 weeks ago, we gave free time to callers. I will apologize. Maybe dedicate a program, a session for callers to call in. We may not take everything, but you are doing serious business in the oil and gas sector. Akwa Ibom State is not getting in. In fact, for me, Akwa Ibom State does not look like an oil producing state. Now, Seplat has taken over Mobil, and there are outstanding issues. They met with the governor last week to pay homage that they have started. How can we harness what is supposed to be our due? There are people working in Akwa Ibom State but paying taxes to Rivers State and Lagos State. What should be done? How can we harness the gas potential and the oil potential and other potentials that we have to be able to exist if there's no oil money, derivation money coming in?
I must borrow Governor Umoino's language. Arise. It is for Akwa Ibom sons to arise and do business. Just wake up. It's a wake-up call. There are opportunities in the oil and gas sector, nationwide, internationally, in oil, in gas, petrochemicals. In fact, the products that come out of petroleum are in thousands. It will shock you.
Absolutely.
Even insecticides. So we cannot sit here and say to ourselves that people are benefiting, we are not benefiting. No, we are not doing anything.
But are we even interested? There's a ministry for petroleum.
They don't need the ministry. We need individuals.
But politics
is a private sector driven thing. We must wake up in the private sector and work.
How do we wake ourselves up when everybody is after politics and political appointments?
No, maybe we should suffer some deprivation for some time.
Have we not suffered enough?
Not enough. Because there is a breaking point.
I'm
No, to be honest to you, until you get to the tipping point, you do not realize it. There is a tipping point.
Remember what I call the thought for food and food for thought. The turning point in the process of growing up is when you discover the core strength within you survives all hurt. There's a level point at which we can't do it any longer. So, as a parting shot, because of time, tell us what should the government itself do, because everything revolves around government now. If many people do what kind of thing that we are doing in open forum, trying to be independent despite not even having the resources. We are doing what we are doing. What should the government do?
No, government at best would be a prime mover, providing certain incentives. But you see, the idea must be private sector driven, because government itself has no business in business.
The idea must be private sector driven, and here we are in open forum, very private sector driven, even without subhead, without budget. We doing what we are doing. If you want to support this program, the number to call is 0802 757 7497. I take it again. 0802 757 7497. That has been the size of today's edition of Open Forum with Citizen MKO. And I remain Citizen Matthew Kofi O'Connor, your citizen with extraordinary drive of patriotism. And I thank our technical hand, Sharon Mandra, you've been doing a good job for us. Thank you so very much. I want to sign out. Thank you for everything. You want to support us, please do call. And next week, be another bumper edition. Thank you for being here, Barrister.
Thank
Your
you very
Excellency.
much.